Hi there and welcome back to the channel. If you've been following along with the most recent videos I've done where we've been talking about credibility gaps and how they show up and where there can be leaks in your credibility for your website, we already covered clarity and proof, the first two places where your site can lose some trust, even if your business is really solid. And today I'm going to be talking about path. And that one's kind of interesting because it tends to be one of the places that where a leak can feel more like a user experience problem when it's actually going to be a credibility problem for you. And once you start to see it that way and think about it that way, it will change what you do about it. Before I get into all of that, if we haven't met yet, I'm Meg. I'm the founder of Purpose and Pixel, and I help established women entrepreneurs close that gap between their real-world expertise and how they show up online. So what do I mean by path? Well, path is the experience of moving through your website. It's not the design or the copy specifically. It's that overall sense of direction a visitor gets from the moment they land on your website. It's most often referred to as the customer journey. You'll hear that phrase used a lot. And when your path or customer journey is working, someone will come to your site and they feel guided. They know who you are, they understand what's going on, and they can see whether it's for them and know exactly what to do next once they get there. It should feel effortless to them, not because anything flashy is happening, but because someone thought carefully about their journey before they built their website. And when we start to get leaks in that path, we get leaks in the credibility because that experience starts to fall apart. And it can fall apart in a few different ways. So what might some of these leaks look like? Well, one of the most common ways that these leaks can show up is having too many competing calls to action on a page. So if you've got a button to book a call and a banner promoting your new offer, plus a pop-up with a freebie, or a link to your portfolio or a newsletter sign up, and they're all on the same page and they're all asking for equal attention, meaning they're the same size or they have the same button, style, and weight, well, it's too much. Now, every option is probably genuinely very relevant to you and your business and things you want people to see and click on and sign up for. And that's why it feels really hard to want to cut any of them or deprioritize one of them. But when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. So if a visitor lands, looks around, and is just getting bombarded with different commands, different things that you're being asked to do without any clarity as to which one's the most important or which one's most relevant to them, they're going to probably get a little overwhelmed or just subconsciously think to themselves, this is too much and I'm just going to leave the site. And they do. The second way this can show up is having no clear path. This is where your website has all the right information, but it's just not organized correctly. It's organized in a way that you think about your business, not the way a new visitor, your customer, is going to encounter it for the first time. And when you think about it, we're all guilty of this. We've been inside our business for years. We're too close to it. And we know that the service page explains the difference between our offers, and our about page has all of our credentials on it, and our FAQ covers the most common questions. All the information is there. But a first-time visitor doesn't know any of that yet. They're orienting to you and your business in real time. And if your website doesn't guide them, they're on their own, and they don't tend to like that. They want your help guiding them to the right place. Next version where this can show up is, and this may sound counterintuitive to what I might have just said, but it's important that you listen to this. If you are in a business where you serve more than one type of client, more distinct clientele, you need to make sure that you're giving those people the option to self-select quickly. So for example, if you work with two distinct audiences, say you have professionals, peers of yours that you provide content for and you provide services for, and then you have regular customers, just general people that you provide services for. But they have very different services that you provide for them. When they land on your site, you need to make it clear to them right away where they need to go to get what's appropriate for them. I've encountered this on some of my clients' sites as well, where they serve peers and then they serve other people. And you need to be very clear right off the bat. Hey, this is where you need to go. This is where you need to go. And they get on their journey right from the start. And this doesn't mean that you can just throw it up in your header navigation and it shouldn't be buried like in a submenu. It really needs to be right up front, up in your hero section if possible, very clear. They know where to go right away. The key is you don't want them to have to search for what they need to find. You need to guide them on that path. Because if you think about it and put yourself in their shoes, if someone has to search for whether you're the right fit for them or whether you have the right content for them, they'll often just end up assuming that you're not, and they'll move on. Now, what all three of these things have in common is friction. They make your visitors do more work than they should have to, and that can start to call in a subconscious level of distrust of whether or not you're the right person for them or whether you have the right information for them. And you end up creating doubt in their minds where you want to be creating confidence in their minds that you are the right person for them. And why does this happen? And I've kind of touched on this before. I think that a lot of times this almost always happens because our businesses have grown over time and we've kind of moved our websites along with them, but mostly because we just know our businesses so well. We're really into the details and the weeds. We're just so close to them. So when we look at our websites and how they're built, that logic, the internal logic of how they're set up, it makes complete sense to us. But again, a first-time visitor doesn't have that map. They haven't seen it before. And if they require a map to navigate your site, then you have a path problem. Now, this can also get more pronounced or problematic over time with businesses that have grown over time. So, for example, you started out with one offer and then you added another. You've maybe updated your positioning. Maybe you've expanded your audience or changed who your ideal client is. Maybe you've launched something new, like you've added a blog or a podcast to your repertoire. And each of those things then got kind of added on and layered onto your website without stepping back and asking whether or not the overall journey for your customer still made sense. Were these things cohesive? The way I kind of like to put this is, have you ever seen a house that had an addition put on it that just didn't seem to make any sense? This was something that my husband and I ran into when we were first house hunting after we got married. We had come across this beautiful craftsman house. Incredible location. It was just perfect. And our realtor took us to see it. And what we saw when we got there was that someone had added on this just massive modern addition onto the back of it, but off to the side. And it just made absolutely no sense. I mean, from the street, it looked weird and disjointed. And then once we got inside, it was even worse. The flow was just completely broken up. I mean, rooms didn't connect logically, the styles clashed, and nothing flowed from one place to the other, and you just kept stopping in our tracks every time we moved from one area to another of the house going, what is going on here? And it was so disappointing because we absolutely loved the location and the neighborhood, and we really wanted to love this house. And it was in our price point. But we ended up walking away because we walked out of there thinking to ourselves, well, what were they thinking when they did this? And this is going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars to correct, and I'm just not up for it. Instead, we should have been saying, wow, look how seamlessly they pulled this all together. They brought these things together and it all flows seamlessly and they all work together, and really impressed, and I'm now ready to put in an offer. The original house was great. The addition on its own wasn't bad, but together, no unifying logic, the whole thing fell apart. And that's exactly the same thing that can happen to your website when it grows in layers and things get added on hodgepodge without sticking to an overall guiding strategy and structure that's underneath it all. All your individual pieces or pages might be fine, but if you've never stepped back to take a look at the whole journey from the perspective of a potential customer and look at how it flows and whether it makes sense to someone who doesn't already live inside it, then your visitors may walk away with that same feeling my husband and I did walking out of that house. So, a site with a strong path doesn't feel complicated. It feels calm when there's one clear primary action per page, and the rest of them are following a hierarchy that guides you. Here's what the business does, here's who it's for, here's what to do next, and that information is all delivered in an order that makes sense to someone who just found you. Your navigation should help, not overwhelm. Remember, your visitors shouldn't be asked to choose between 7 different things. They need to be guided along a journey, and that is a difference that they can feel. And if you serve more than one audience, as I mentioned before, making sure that that path forks clearly and early in the journey. So someone who lands on your page within seconds can see their path clearly and not have to find it after reading through 3 paragraphs and make some educated guess. The experience of moving through a well-structured website should almost be invisible. They shouldn't notice they're being guided. They just know what to do next, and it feels easy. And that builds trust. And if it's not building trust, it's potentially hurting your credibility. And I want to make that point very clear because I think that this is where a lot of website advice misses the mark. Your path problems can so easily be labeled as a problem with navigation or with user experience, UX problems, and they'll get handed off to someone to clean up the menu or add a few more buttons or take away a couple of buttons. But when a visitor can't move through your site with confidence, they aren't going to think this site has a navigation problem. No, that's not the language or the thought process they're going to have. It's more going to show up for them as feelings. They're just going to feel uncertain about you and your business. They're going to feel confused. And that confusion will be attributed to you and your business, not your design or your website. So a website that is disorganized and doesn't have a clear path sends a signal that the business, that you, might also be disorganized. If a site doesn't know what it wants you to do, it makes that person wonder if the person behind it does either. So you don't have to put "trust me" in big letters on your homepage. But when the path through your website is clear and intentional, that trustworthiness comes through in the experience itself. That is the version of your website that's doing the work for you, the work that you need it to do. And it's in alignment with who you are wanting to serve. Now, if any of this is sounding or feeling a little bit familiar to you, the thing I'd like to point to you to first is my credibility gap type quiz. It's 11 questions. It takes 2 minutes. It can help give you a clearer picture of where your website credibility stands, so you'll know where to focus. And it'll give you some direction that you can take action on immediately, so you don't waste your time trying to fix the wrong problem. Link is down in the description, and I'll be back in the next video to talk about presence. I'll see you then.